they may fall, but after decades of hoping, it's nice to be here at all. They didn't see us coming, but we can make it alone. Let's just believe until we have to go home.
Morning all, welcome back to another Euro breakfast where I know we're 5 minutes late, it's all my fault, apologies for that, technical itches and such like. Here's me thinking, making Andy think he's broken his computer and I just hadn't unmuted my mic, so pro streamer here.
One of us is a pro, one of us is a pro and it's not me.
Having said that, it's giving Chris a chance to join us. We've not spoke to him yet, he's only just jumped in, but let me do a proper introduction first of all. So from Alba Mater, Andy, on my left, but you're right as you're looking at it. How you doing, mate? Welcome in.
Hi, cheers Mozza, appreciate it. I've been enjoying the stream, so nice to be a part of it.
Good man. And then coming back, my other official catch-up partner from, well, yesterday you had Ben, today we've got Chris. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. Sorry, I was running a wee bit late myself, actually. I had similar technical issues. My computer decided to just restart randomly, so I was like, okay, I'm going to be late for this. And then I came in and noticed that the countdown was still on, so glad of that. I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm not late, actually.
So you can just pretend he's not been late, it's fine.
I've been here the whole time, what are you talking about?
But it was a decent day of football yesterday. We only had 3 goals, but I think 2 of the most enjoyable games so far. We'll start with Netherlands, Czech Republic. It's beginning to look not too bad that we lost to the Czechs. Like, in that game that we billed as must win, and it was must win ultimately, but it was a red card that swung this game. Like, I think without that, you'd still I fancied the Netherlands to go through, but as per, they always seem to shoot themselves in the foot, don't they? And they didn't even need Frank de Boer to do it for them this time. Delict was the man that did it. How did you see this game, Andy?
I just thought that Delict was like hopelessly committed to Cruyff's way of football and wanted to put 3 at the back, and that was why he took himself out of play. You know? It's like, this isn't the Ajax way. I'm gonna sacrifice for the master. But no, to be honest, I didn't even think Netherlands were that impressive before the sending off. I think the Czechs just seem to be one of those teams that are going under the radar but really hard to beat, as we found out, and they've just got some really solid players, you know, like a really solid spine, I guess, is the thing everyone talks about, and the Czechs really have that. So, it's nice to see, because it makes us look like we gave them a right good game.
That's one way of looking at it, absolutely. It makes our group stage game look a bit better in hindsight. But bit disappointing for the Netherlands, Chris, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I think people were going a wee bit overboard with their praise for the Czech Republic, to be honest with you. I thought they were good, don't get me wrong, and I think they are a good, solid team, but to be honest, I still think they were the weakest team that Scotland had in the group. I just think they, like what Andy was saying there, they've got look like a solid team, solid outfit, but they seem to me like they rely on Czech quite a lot. I mean, if they didn't have him, sometimes you just feel at this level that there are teams that just have that reliance on one player, and he seems to be getting the goals for them. And I do feel like, I think you alluded a wee bit to it, Mozza, that the red card was a changing point for me.
Yeah.
And I don't rate the Netherlands as much as I have in previous tournaments. I think this has been one of their weaker teams. I think we've mentioned it a few times, so it can't take anything away from the Czech Republic. You know, they seem to be getting, you know, the results and whatnot, but I do feel people are a wee bit too giving them too much credit. I think the red card did affect the Netherlands, but I don't necessarily overly rate the Netherlands anyway. It's one of these weird ones where, apart from maybe you guys would disagree, but apart from like Italy, I've not really been impressed or overly impressed with the team performances of any team apart from Italy, really, so far.
I mean, even then, the Italians pretty much laboured to a win in the first knockout game, didn't they? So I don't think there's a team that's really kind of looked good in every single game. The thing about Italy is they managed to get the job done in the end, but we'll
yeah, the
get to
Danes,
Belgium.
of course. Denmark have been superb the last couple of games.
Yeah,
That's the
they're
only thing
hitting
to
their
add.
stride
But
at the right time, definitely. But we'll get there as well, because that's the one prediction I've made. It looks like it's coming good, so I'm obviously keen to talk about that one. But I think Czech is so important for the Czechs, isn't it? Like, if you put Czech in that Scotland team, we're in the knockouts, because he's a great finisher, and as simple as that. He's not like an outstanding striker that he's going to do the unexpected. He just puts headers in really well, and he finishes really well, and he always seems to be in the right place at the right time. He's quite old school that way, that he just knows his job. Put the ball in the back of the net, simple as that, and he's very good at it.
Aye, we put on a a tweet just afterwards, because did any of you guys used to watch a European football show back in the day?
Yeah.
BT Sport. Oh, it was absolutely brilliant. But James Horncastle was absolutely raving about Patrick Schick. It always stuck with me, because he was in a Samp top, and everybody remembers Sampdoria players because they're the best top in the world. But and then he kind of disappeared off the radar, and of course he went to Leipzig and Leverkusen. But he just seems to have everything to his game, doesn't he? And he's got that lovely left foot that, like, he's a big guy as well, but he's not a target man. He runs the channels and he just drops into space, and his finish last night was just lovely. Just near post, rolling it in. Really nice goal.
I think that's what I like about him. He's quite classy. Like, he just makes it look easy. He's got great technique. Really like the way that he sticks the ball in the back of the net. Like, very rarely misses a target as well, as the other thing. But for the Dutch, I think from what I was reading last night, it sounds like De Boer might be on his way out now, which I don't know how he falls upwards out of this job. And another, like, his record's awful. He's passed four jobs.
If anyone's going to manage to fall upwards, it's going to be Frank De Boer.
I heard that he's linked with Spurs, but I think everyone's been linked with Spurs lately. Obviously, still not having a manager.
I turned in the Spurs job, mate. So let's get into that stage.
I'd do it for free, mate. I'd give them all a bit up the arse, like, but I'd do it for free. But I don't think it's going to happen for him. I don't think Spurs will be in it for him. I mean, who was he? Was he at Everton? I think was it Everton? I can't remember.
No, it was Crystal Palace. He was at
Crystal Palace. That's it. Yeah,
like 5 weeks or something, wasn't it? Or...
Yeah.
Like, he lost all 7 games he was in charge of, and Mourinho called him the worst manager ever, which I still think is quite funny.
He's not got a good track record, does he?
But then, to be fair, we could have been having a very different chat about this game, because right before the red card, literally 27 seconds before it, Malin misses a 1-1. If they score that, it's 1-0 Netherlands, and it's a totally different game. I don't see the Czechs winning it at that point, because they hadn't shown too much going forward until the sending off. They were outstanding after that. I can't remember who the co-commentator was, but they were bang on saying, their game management was outstanding. As soon as they had the extra man, they made use of it really well. Some teams can struggle in that situation. The Czechs did. So
the reaction was quite interesting. All the players seem to, all the Netherlands players seem to be very disappointed and saying that they were let down, or they felt let down that they didn't go further. But I'm thinking to myself, like, that's typical of previous Netherlands teams. But, like, I don't know, being realistic, did anyone expect them to go further? I mean, obviously, if you're a team like the Netherlands, your fans and people outside not seeing their team for a few years probably would think they would, but I think they were probably out at the right time, to be honest. I don't think a lot of people did rate them. I did think it was interesting. The players all seem to say the same thing. We're like, it's, we should be going further, and I'm thinking, should you, with the team you've got? But maybe that's just my assessment of seeing them.
Probably didn't help that Frank De Boer told their national media that he dreamed of them winning it, and at least semi-finals was where they were going to go. So when your manager's saying that, you're going to get people carried away a wee bit. He's a glutton for punishment.
They've fallen into this way of just being a distinctly average team with a few amazing players.
Yeah.
And like Virgil van Dijk, if you take him out, any team is going to make a huge difference, as we saw Liverpool. But put him in, put De Ligt in on form. Like since he's gone to Juve, he doesn't seem to be the same kind of player that he was at Ajax and things. And there's what's his name, Donny van de Beek's not getting a game at Man U. I think all these players need to be playing because there is a small pool of talent, and if they're not playing at the top level, it kind of shows quite quickly, I think, and big gaps appear.
Like the Dutch have got the same issue as a lot of national teams in that if their talisman isn't playing well, if Depay's not putting goals in, who else? You can't rely on Gini Wijnaldum every game. He's not an out-and-out goal scorer. He's a midfielder. So I think that came back to bite them because Malin's got to score his 1-on-1. As good as he's been and as impressed as I've been with him, you've got to finish that at that level. You don't get away with missing chances of that ilk. I'm not convinced Depay's going to be a success at Barca as well. I've always thought of him as that step below elite level. I don't think he's ever quite hit the elite level, and he kind of flatters to deceive a wee bit, I feel like, but we'll see how that goes. I noticed in the chat somebody mentioned Thomas Vaclik, who has been the keeper. He's been very, very good. Very good for them the whole tournament. So, going back to Scotland, we know how good he was against us. So,
that go gadget toe. Stealing that shot with his foot.
Well, we'll move on because obviously that game has really opened up the draw now. On that side of it. The other side, Belgium beating Portugal 1-0. Wasn't the most exciting game, but I really enjoyed it because it was a bit of a tactical battle. Two different styles of play, and obviously Pepe back to his old school who me best. So I quite enjoyed that. The easiest bit of my life putting on for him to get booked. I thought he was going to get a straight red at one point, so I was calking it there. But I think Belgium looked really good. Again, a team that they're not doing anything too much like spectacular, but they just look like they're the type that will grind their way through. Obviously, the issue now is they might be missing KDB again.
That was a horrible tackle, tackle from just cynical's the word into it. But I did feel for De Bruyne because he obviously had that injury in the Champions League final as well, and he seems to get a lot of these breaking from midfield and just getting taken out. Like, you're Kevin De Bruyne and I'm going to half you before you get to the goal, So it was a bit of a shame for him. Not least because he's my daughter's favourite player, so she was desperate for him to, continue playing, and then he's off the pitch. But no, I agree with you, Mozza. I think Belgium are looking the real deal. What stuck out last night was Lukaku. I mean, everybody knows he's grown to kind of another level, but he doesn't do much movement. He really knows his game. He really plays to his strengths. When he does burst or move, it's always with a real purpose. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's very rarely just running about like a headless chicken either. And oh man, his hold-up play, which we all know, but it was just incredible. There was a few times where, he's up there on his own, trying to alleviate pressure, and he won't just bring it down, but he'll also turn and run and take them up the pitch 30 yards, get a foul on the edge of the box, and that's on top of his goals and everything else. I think he's just he's an absolute monster at the moment. Struggling to think who's going to be able to handle him.
He's arguably the form striker of world football just now. When you look at it, when he's on his game, he's unplayable. And as you say, I'm going to make a bit of a bizarre comparison for some people here, but he's very Cristiano Ronaldo now in the way he plays. He doesn't really contribute to build-up play that much. He doesn't contribute defensively. He saves his energy and he just uses it for when he's got a chance to get involved in the attack. And he's very, very effective with it now because I say he's not getting involved in build-up play. That's not fair because he does hold the ball up really well. But he only really kind of properly gets into full geared sprint when he's got a chance of shooting at the end of it, basically. And you can see the panic in defenders. See when he turns and he's running right at them. I mean, anyone would panic because look at the size of the boy. But he's also not given enough credit for his touch, I think, as well. He's got a really decent pair of feet there that he's more technical than a lot of folk give credit for. And if Belgium go all the way here or have designs on going all the way, he's going to be massive for them. That I don't think if Lukaku goes off the boil, I don't think they've got any chance. Basically, they need him on song the the whole way through the knockouts. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, it's one thing we kind of touched on. I think Lukaku's became a better player after moving to Serie A. One thing that I always find interesting that the top strikers all have is that sort of change of pace. I mean, sometimes you feel like, they've not done anything, and then all of a sudden they have a wee turn of pace, running the channels. You know, you get their goal, and then the team have won the game. I think Portugal will feel a wee bit hard done by, because I actually thought they were the better team. And I mean, looking at the stats, I think Belgium had one shot on target. You know, I actually thought Portugal were much the better team, but like Belgium just took their chance. They got their goal. We've talked about Belgium as this sort of the last sort of gold. This is the last sort of hurrah with the golden generation of like Hazard and Alderweireld and players like that. But in fairness to them, they still have players coming up. Lukaku, I think they're going to. Some of them will probably not make the World Cup if they're going to be in it, but still a quality team, still a quality side. I think it's a strange tournament where once you get to the knockouts, we've seen. I think Andy mentioned obviously Denmark. If you're hitting form now and you're getting results now, it's anyone's competition. I think we'll obviously talk about the games today, but I could see a few, I guess, shocks, if you will, in the games today as well, with the on-form teams, because that's all it takes. Just being a team on form. And credit to Belgium, actually, I didn't think they would have much of a chance to win it, but I think if you're at this stage where you're getting past your games into the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and that, of course you've got a chance to win it. And I think Belgium are that one team. I mean, Portugal I do rate, but again, I feel they were I still feel they were a wee bit hard done by in that game yesterday.
They were just wasteful. More than anything else, I felt like they had chances, and Jota's not been great this tournament. I don't think his final kind of, either shot or deliveries not really been on the mark. I've put this question up on the screen, so I've seen it a couple of times in the chat already. Which Hazard brother would you buy? I'm not touching Eden at this point. I think his injuries are just. It's got to the point now where he cannot stay fit, and like he's going to get a run of 5 games here or there, and he's going to twinge something. And it's a shame because when he was at his best at Chelsea, he was just ridiculously good and a great player to watch. But I think his body's now failing him a wee bit, and Thorgan Hazard is more often than not overlooked. He's a cracking player in his own right. Scored a great goal last night. I felt bad for the keeper because it was one of those that I don't think you can blame him too much for the swerve of the ball. It's just a very clever shot to swerve it away from his dive. But yeah, I think personally I'd be taking Thorgan every time. What about you guys?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's coming into his prime as well. Hazard was just unplayable at Chelsea. We all know that, but he's not been that player since going to Madrid, and like it's sad to see. I always feel sad for these guys when they go somewhere and then you get a big injury or something, and you know it's as if it's their fault. You're kind of like, well, I don't know. He might have been carrying some when he went to Real Madrid, but I'm sure he didn't want to be out for the length of time he's been out, you know, and try to get it back. So he's just such an amazing player to watch, Eden Hazard, and like it was the same with the Laudrup brothers back in the day. Like they would do things that made them look like each other. And they'd obviously learned off their dad or something, I don't know, or mum, whatever. But the way that Thorgan Hazard kind of drops his shoulder and gets that low centre of gravity and things, he kind of, well, to me anyway, I'm like, oh, that's even. Oh no, it's not. It's Thorgan Hazard. Like he's kind of indistinguishable sometimes from what his more famous big brother used to do, and I think that kind of shows the levels he's at. His goal yesterday, like I know there was chat saying that the keeper was at fault and stuff. I'm not a goalie. I've got no idea, but I just love it when someone like cuts across the ball and puts that spin on it with power. It just looks so cool.
They look good, don't they, those goals? Yeah, definitely. Just before we come back to Chris, Dear Hunter, do not despair. I have 2 English guests tomorrow for you guys. So just naturally, me being Scottish, it's easier to get Scottish people on. It's one of these things. Chris, your thoughts, Thorgan or Eden?
Yeah, Thorgan for me. I mean, I don't really like Eden, obviously, given my Spurs leanings. I'm kind of. I would say that I'm quite happy that his career's starting to fail, but I'm not that sort of bitter about it. But no, look, I give the guy credit. I mean, you can dislike a footballer because of club, whatever. But I mean, Hazard back in the day with Chelsea, I mean, world class. I just feel that sometimes we can talk about players going abroad. Obviously, it was a dream move for him going to Real Madrid, but you've got to. Sometimes it just doesn't suit them. I think Hazard in the Premier League for Chelsea was just world class, but going to Real Madrid, albeit it's Real Madrid, one of the top clubs in the world, sometimes I just don't think the league suits them. And obviously we were talking a wee bit about Lukaku, where it's just like the opposite. He's absolutely smashing it in there. I just don't think looking. To be fair to Hazard, in fairness, he had his injuries as well at Real Madrid, but I honestly think he was perfectly suited for Chelsea at that time. And sometimes it's not just about the country or league, but sometimes it's just about the club as well. And I think he suited Chelsea at that time, and they kind of made him that much better. And I think with Forgan, like Andy was saying, to me, I think he's, as a player, starting to hit his prime now, and I think he's still. Is he still in the Bundesliga? I think he's still.
I'll tell you in 2 seconds. I'll double check.
I know he was. I know he's been about, obviously, Borussia Dortmund and stuff like that. But to me, he's hitting his prime.
He's still at Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah.
As things stand, but he's. I think he's beginning to get the praise in his own right now. He's not really just seen as Eden's brother. He's actually getting some proper plaudits coming his way.
He seemed to be a bit of almost like a journeyman the last sort of few years, and then he's been at Dortmund, and then I don't know what it is, but it's like what I say. If, sometimes it just sticks, and sometimes it just gels. Hopefully no one's making fun of my spoon on the wall. I was really offended. I'm just.
I'm just going to say, don't get me started on Danny Murphy. I've already had my rant about him in this tournament.
See, it's random, Andy. That's what I like about it. Is why you got a spoon on your wall.
Do you know, it's not the most utilitarian. I don't know if it'll work because it's got big holes in it, but it's nice. It's a nice spoon, man. I like it.
It's more a fashion choice than a practical choice. That spoon.
Yeah, of course.
The last thing with Hazard, there's a lot of parallels there with him and Bale. Guys that maybe aren't fully 100% loving the game. They do it for a living. They don't have the same passion as other players do for it, I feel like. And they've gone to Madrid, and obviously they demand 110% at all times. The fans have turned against them slightly in both cases. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they can get back. Jury's still on, and whether Gareth will be there next year as well. So we'll need to see what happens there.
Just a note on, it can happen at any club, and like what you said about Depay earlier, going to Barcelona. I mean, that could be a disaster for him as well. Always seems to be the bigger clubs, the pressure from the fans and whoever else. So,
well, I was going to imagine being the Barca manager next year. You've got who have you got? You've got Messi, Aguero, Depay, Ansu Fati. I'm forgetting who, Griezmann.
Yep.
How are you going to keep all them happy and play them all in the same team?
And there's a few old boys in there as well. Is the other thing with Barca. They're not exactly a young team now. So it's Ronald Koeman doesn't keep anyone happy. Let's be honest. They'll all be miserable together, but at least they'll be the same. He'll end up going up front.
He knows how to win the Euros, though. That's one thing.
That's true. True.
I hope his wife's not listening after what you just said. You know what I mean?
Moving on swiftly before we get down that track. Lee Dixon is potentially worse than Danny Murphy. I've seen a few folks say it as well. Liam only put these stats together because I had nothing to do with Dixon. Let's not get into co-commentators Arnie Ali McCoist in this tournament. Right, let's move on swiftly. Today's games, first up we have Croatia versus Spain. This is the one I've had marked in as a shock for ever since we knew the draw. I haven't been that impressed with Spain. I don't think the Slovakia game can be taken with too much weight because Slovakia were awful. And basically as soon as they were 2-0 down, they threw the jerseys on. It was game's a bogey. Croatia, I've been didn't start well, but they looked very good against Scotland, albeit we let them look good. I just think if they can get Modric singing in that game, they've got every chance of taking something off of Spain, I would say.
Yeah, it's a shame that Perisic is out, obviously. Sorry, Chris, I jumped in. Perisic is like, he's still so quality, isn't he? He's still so good. And I think his goal against Czech is like, it's typical of him. His header against us kind of showed what else he can do, but I guess his goal against Czech was just a lovely hit, and he's going to be a threat for anyone. So I'm trying to think who'll come in for him. Does he play alongside Rebic, or would it be Rebic who came in for him?
Rebic might come in, actually. Yeah.
They could do it a couple of ways. They could put Rebic in, or they could go with one of the more attacking midfielders to pop in. So, like, they've got Orsic, who could potentially jump in. You've still got Ivanišek, those kind of players, but it'll be interesting to see actually how they shape up. I did notice that they're giving us the blame for it, because if anyone does know Perisic, it's COVID related, as to why he's not in their squad, and obviously with Scotland's outbreak, they're blaming us for giving him it. So there's that.
Oh well, enjoy the last 16, boys. There you go.
How do you see this one going, Chris?
I have a weird feeling about this, actually, because if I was looking at this without knowing what I know and not seeing Croatia and Spain previously, I would obviously go with Spain. But to me, it's easy to see why Modric is still, had been playing for Real Madrid for so long, because he's just out of this world. Like you mentioned, he turns it on like he did against Scotland, and he's unplayable. He's still every bit as class as he was. Obviously, his age is sort of catching up on him, but the guy, he seems timeless. He honestly seems timeless when he plays, and that would worry me about coming up against him, because although I do rate Croatia, I mean, obviously we know that they reached the World Cup final, but I have a weird. I can't really predict this one. I actually think it'll be really close.
Yeah.
I still have a wee bit of a sway towards Spain, but I think it might be another one of these sort of going into extra time sort of games with not very many goals, or completely going the other way where it'll be like a 4-goal thriller, goes to extra time, penalties and all that sort of stuff. I think it's either going to go one or two ways. So.
Chamander's made a point there saying basically England shackled Modric and that killed Croatia, and yeah, they didn't really look like they were going to score at all against England. The thing with the English though is they've got two defensive mids that looked after them in Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips. Spain's got one in Sergio Busquets, and even then he's not really a man mark type. He's more of a deep line playmaker style of player. So it depends how much he's going to just be trying to keep an eye on Modric rather than play his own game. Be interesting to see actually, because he's more than capable of being that kind of player, the shadow to their opposition number 10. But I don't think Spain will deal with him as well as England did, put it that way, just purely because of style Spain employ. And Enrique seems kind of like just pig-headed to a point that he just won't give up his style of play and his formation, because like it shouldn't be about the other team. It's all about Spain and all about tiki-taka. It's to a fault. I just can't see Spain doing it in this tournament.
No, I was just thinking that. Could I finish your sentence there? They seem like they seem a team like they've gone from everybody knowing their first 11, and for the first 11 pretty much being the best. I mean, I'm talking about their golden generation, I suppose, but like Iniesta, Xavi, like these names that just roll off the tongue, and that's still the Spain in a lot of people's minds. It isn't mine. I need to make a big shift to go, this isn't that Spain at all. And actually, when you see their first 11, you're kind of like, and then you watch them play, and I agree with you. Against Slovakia totally bottled it. They just kind of let it go. But Morata being your centre forward, I don't know what you guys think about Morata. Like, he's a very handsome man. He's a very handsome.
Going for him,
I'll give him that. But like his goal return for like someone who's commanded the amount of money he's commanded is like, really? I'd be looking for a bit more, you know, like a lot more basically. So I think there are better teams in the competition than Spain, absolutely, 100%.
I'm not going to get back into Morata because I had a 5-minute rant about him in an earlier stream, and as much as it went down well, I don't think I want to go over old ground again. I think Moreno is our best striker, and even then, he's still going to miss chances here and there. He's not going to put everything away. We talked about Czech earlier on. Spain don't have that. They don't have a guy that more often than not is going to score chances. They've got Morata who falls over the ball rather than puts the ball in the back of the net. Absolute fraud of a player. But Chris, what do you reckon?
The Spain, I don't think they've had a proper, decent, reliable front man since Raul back in the day. You know,
David Villa maybe.
Yeah,
David
maybe.
Villa was more a winger, but yeah.
But like it's like, for example, I mean, if you even look past previous Spain teams, I mean, Morientes, Fernando Torres was kind of a wee bit hit and miss for the country. So, old Real Madrid's Raul, I think, was for me the main guy back in the day. There's probably other players I'm forgetting, but it's not like I've not seen Spain as a team that really relies on their forward guys too much. I think it's always been their sort of midfielders, your Xavis, your Iniestas, these sort of players, and I think Spain are a difficult one. I think one of the talking points was obviously the fact that they didn't bring any Real Madrid players this tournament. Obviously with Enrique, it starts, it's making sense now, but I'm not really overly, I wouldn't say impressed, but I just don't, kind of similar to Andy as well, I just don't see them as with the team they've got at the moment, I don't think they're a top team like someone like France, for example. You look at their team and you're like, world class throughout, Champions League winners. I don't see that with Spain, and especially with Morata. I actually think Morata, despite his flaws and whatnot, I do think he does have a wee bit of merit, but I just don't think he's a goal scorer. Like, I don't think he's a fraud. I just think he's valuable in other ways. I think he's maybe, to me, I've always seen him as a bit more of a sort of a shadow striker, a second striker, guy that sort of sets up the goal scorer. But if you're playing him just himself up front, then he's obviously not the guy to get you goals, So,
do you know, I was about to go, okay, maybe I see that, but no, I'll go full Limmy. I'm going to double down. He's an absolute fraud of a striker. The fact that so much money has been spent on Morata is a disgrace. Because I don't even think he's passing in that. It's that good. Like, there's nothing special about him, apart from the fact he's a bit of a good-looking lad.
Mozza,
Torres I've left.
Sorry, 5 minutes ago you were like, I'm not going down this road, I'm not doing it.
I know.
I'm not doing internal monologue, and then Chris just dropped it at you like.
I was baiting. I didn't rate him either.
I can't help myself.
I'm only kidding. I do think he has some merit, but
I've left this up because Jay's mentioned Ferran Torres, and he has looked really good, I thought. And he's kind of limited chance of being up top. I don't see Enrique using him like that, though. I think he'll stick with Morata and Moreno as the main guys that he's employing to score the goals, basically. I would like to see more of Ferran Torres. I'll be honest, I think he's probably Spain's best. Would I say Spain's best finisher? Possibly. He's definitely Spain's best chance of getting a goal, in my view, I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I see him as more of a sort of winger midfielder, wide midfielder. I mean, he did get a fair bit chance this season with Man City, but they've got so many, obviously, world-class players. I think he was a wee bit part. As a young age, I think he needs to sort of come on a wee bit, and I'll be interested to see if Man City sort of start playing him as a, if they're losing players, if he's going to be the sort of first team. But I think he needs to be. I actually do think he's a decent talent for Spain. But yeah, I don't see him as a striker, to be honest.
The fact that Man City, you've just said Dykes is our Morata. He's getting compared to Lyndon Dykes. That says enough for me, to be honest, mate. We mentioned David Villa. I think Ferran Torres is probably a good comparison with David Villa because basically he's more of a wide player, but he's going to finish when he's up top. I think you're right, Chris, to be honest. I think he is probably more effective in the wings and so on, but it looks like Enrique fancies Adama Traore as that guy who's a game changer for the right wing. So it's, again, like, we don't really know what the best kind of 11 for this Spanish side is yet, and that's maybe one of the things that goes against him. He's still kind of playing about with things, and I don't think Enrique knows, to be honest, like what he wants to do. But we'll move on to the other game without me getting too far into Morata slander. France, Switzerland, and we haven't been too kind to Switzerland on these streams. I'm going to blame John Walker for most of it, because he called them the most boring side ever. And he had a massive go at Granit Xhaka as well. I just, they don't inspire any confidence in me here. Even though France haven't looked full pelt as yet, they're exactly the kind of team that will start this way and then get motoring down the knockouts. I think I could see this being 2 or 3-0 to France.
Yeah, I can't see it any other way. I'd be amazed if anybody's got like legitimately is going to claim that Switzerland have got a chance in this game. I mean, of course they do, because it's football and that's why we love it.
Yeah.
But you just can't see it unless Shaqiri has an absolute blinder and pings in like a hat-trick of like 30-yard screamers or something like that. I don't even know how they're going to work chances often enough to score, you know. So I think that's going to be a big problem for them. Just come back to Spain. Sorry, Mozza, I know you came on, but something that stuck out, and I think Switzerland have this problem as well. It's like last night we saw a really tight game, and it was won by a goal from distance, like in front of the back four. And I don't know that either Spain or Switzerland with Shaqiri, maybe Xhaka or something can hit along with it, but for someone to have a decent strike from distance, I just don't know they'll even be afforded that opportunity, you know. So I think they're going to have to really work for it, and with Kante in the midfield, just screening that back line, it's going to be nigh on impossible for them to get that space. So yeah, France 3-0, I think. It's probably a fair prediction.
There we go. Hey, you in the same boat, Chris? Or you mentioned you might see an upset earlier on. Is this potentially upset ground for you?
I don't think France will run away with it. I've been quite harsh. Obviously, I don't really like Granit Xhaka. I think it's well known now. But I have actually been, although similar to a lot of other people, I don't really like the way Switzerland play. I don't find them particularly entertaining. I think they have, again, a wee bit like, I don't want to say they've been as good as Denmark, but certainly under the radar, getting results here and there. But coming up against a team like France, who are probably one of the favourites in my head and a lot of other people's opinion as well, I guess. I don't see them doing damage, but I think it will be closer than maybe a 2 or 3-0. I think Switzerland will give them a game. Another player I'm not particularly fond of is Shaqiri. I mean, I feel like I'm getting on at Switzerland here, but I don't really sort of overly rate these guys. I know Shaqiri's been a wee bit part at Liverpool as well, but there seems to be something to. From what I've always thought about Switzerland, despite what I sort of feel about the players and them not being world class or whatever, they do seem to come together for the country and grind out results, as you've seen in obviously the group stage. But I think France is too much for them, but it wouldn't shock me to see a bit of a closer game than people suspect.
The issue I think Switzerland have is most of their starting 11 haven't been playing football this season, so there's a definite issue there where I guess rustiness should be out of them now with a few games in, but they've not came into this tournament in as good a nick as many other teams have. They're relying on a guy Shaqiri barely played for Liverpool. Like, he turned it on in the last game there, but how much are we going to buy into that was good for Switzerland? Or are we going to basically say that Turkey were that bad? I think Turkey were that bad.
Yeah.
Shaqiri's, if they're going to do anything, they need Shaqiri to do something in this. I've liked Mbolo, to be fair. I think Mbolo's been really good for them so far, but like he can't do it himself. He's a player that needs the support, and be that Seferovic, be it Shaqiri, somebody needs to step up and help, because they're a centre mids. Like, all their midfielders are defensive. When you look at it, they've got they've got Xhaka, they've got Frula, even Fernandes, Fastnacht. They're all sitting centre mids. Like, there's very little in that team other than Shaqiri that is going to really progress forward. So
yeah, I don't think they've got the mobility. Like, I think mobility is the key thing up top, but they just don't have, and that's what I was trying to say. Like, they'll need to take a pot from distance, because they're not going to be able to work it up. They're not going to be able to surprise France. Do you know what I mean? And kind of create a number of opportunities from runs in behind or whatever. So I think it's going to be, I don't know, some decent hold-up play from Bolo up front, I agree, he's been really good, particularly against Wales. He was really good, but, you know, Stuart Armstrong would be he'll carry the ball.
Would fit in well in this Swiss team, because he's boring anyway.
That's it. His hair's fine though, so
he's another one that gets off it with good looks.
I'll give them one thing, Switzerland. Actually, I do like Remy Freuler, but that's because he plays for Atalanta, so
He's another Atalanta player that's looked good. Aye, to be fair. Yeah. But every second player that I've not known's been an Atalanta player. But by the way, somebody earlier on, Ken, Mbappe will officially not be killing it because he's captain in my fantasy team this week, so I apologise to anyone who's got him in their team as well. I had Delict, of course, yesterday as well, because
I've got Benzema.
I had De Bruyne, so I am a certified jinx in fantasy football at this point. But now that we've kind of run through today's games, the more general thing, I think the biggest talking point over the last couple of days, with that Czech result especially now, is that side of the draw. Because Denmark, you've got sitting in the quarterfinals, who are hitting form at the right time. They've got that kind of emotional weight behind them as well. After everything that's happened to them, they still get through the group, and he looked really, really good against Wales. I know Wales didn't really turn up as such, but I think you need to give Denmark more credit than criticising Wales the way the game went. Is there any other team in that side of the draw that's going to stop the Danes? England and Germany are the big ones, obviously, but I don't think either's really impressed that much. That game will be interesting in itself, but I think, for my eyes, I'm looking at Denmark as semi-finalists into the final at this point.
Germany had a kind of 45-minute window against Portugal where they just were incredible, and you thought, oh man, this is the mine shaft, this is what Germany do. But I totally agree with you. Other than that, they've looked really stunted. Do you know what I mean? Just there's not much flow to their game and stuff. So England, I guess I've listened a lot to the stream. I know you've spoken a lot about England, but a few English boys in the chat, so we could do that again. But the one team that I would say are going to be really hard to beat, whether or not they'll go further, I don't know, is Sweden. I think Sweden might just 4-4-2 their way to kind of make it really difficult against teams, like a bit of dilly-ding, dilly-dong, whatever it was, like Ranieri said. Because they play 4-4-2, and I watch football with my daughter, and she's 11, right, and she was watching it with me with Sweden, and because they were so disciplined, right, we'll play a game, I'll be like, right, tell me what formation they're playing now, and I'll try and she beats me to it most of the time, but she was like, they're playing 2-4-4, Dad, and I was like, 2-4-4. Oh, she was just reading it the other way, across the pitch, but I was like, right, they're playing 4-4-2 because they're so dedicated, the space in between, it's incredible, man, to watch them, and then I just watched them the rest of the game, and they moved forward and backward. It's this kind of block, unit. So Sweden will be hard to beat. Whether or not they can go deep into the tournament, I'm not sure.
I've seen a few folk mention Sweden, and I'm guilty of this. I suspect other people are as well. I watched that first game against Spain and instantly thought they were just here to defend. But I didn't give them enough credit for the way they played against the Spanish, I don't think. And they've shown in their games since that Forsberg's just started to take over games. They've got guys that can put the ball in the back of the net as well. Something else that we've touched on quite a bit in this, in these streams. I could see them being your quote-unquote dark horse that apparently Turkey have been in several others have been at some point, but I don't fancy Ukraine to beat them. So if Sweden get a good result there and get on a roll, they'll be in a similar position to Denmark. They'll be in form and you won't want to play against them. The problem England and Germany have got is neither side's in form really. So whoever wins that game needs to hit the ground running after it is kind of the takeaway I've got for it anyway. What do you think, Chris?
For me, the Germany-England game is an interesting one because I think regardless of form or how it's been basically, if whoever gets the win there, I am leaning more towards Germany. Not just because I'm Scottish, just I think Germany are. There's something about that game, and this is the reason I think whoever comes out on top, this could be like a massive morale boost, massive sort of, because I think it's more on the England side with Germany. I think Germany see more France, their rivals, for example, but I still think regardless of how each other see each other, I think whoever gets the win there, it's going to be a massive, I think it's going to be like a shot of energy. Right, we're through, we've beaten England, we'll have, I don't know who they might have in the next round, but say it's like a Sweden or a Denmark, then I think their chances get improved significantly just off one win. Like you saw, obviously, Italy, I know they struggled a wee bit against, to be honest, I've said that I've kind of rated Austria. But look at them. I know they went to extra time, but like Pessina's celebration, literally, right? Wins like that, like even if it's going to extra time, taking a wee bit of extra energy, these wins are massive for the confidence and morale. And we've seen it with Denmark, obviously. Although I think the situation's been a bit different with Eriksson, they've been massive wins. So I think it's always interesting psychologically what these sort of games can do for the regardless of results previously and how teams have played. That's what I would say.
It's a good point there for Pete, talking about the England-Germany kind of quote-unquote rivalry. The Germans see the Dutch as their big rivals.
Yeah.
They don't really care that much about the English, in all honesty. But to be honest, I don't really even think it's England fans that build this up, it's the media. Like the amount of stuff I've seen about Gaza's missed chance at Euro 96 against Germany, and they keep glorifying the goal that never was, but in a game they lost 4-1. The media don't help themselves.
No.
Especially when you're sitting watching like a couple of belting games yesterday, and at half time, let's go and ask Saka about his driving test. What? I couldn't care less about his GCSEs. Let's just analyse the game we're watching.
I think that would be amazing, wouldn't it? See if we actually learn something from the game that we're watching, the teams that we're watching, instead of just like, and you know why they do it, it's like the populist link to the Premier League or whatever, but you're still like, oh man, go and tell us about these boys from Atalanta or something like that. Like, tell us how they play, patterns and play, something a bit more than just they've got Pookie up front, so they'll be all right. Like, I think that was a direct quote from Alex Shearer.
No, the best line on commentary, bar none, yesterday was Sean Maloney, who won the FA Cup with Wigan. Nothing to do with him being the Belgium coach or anything like that. No. Wigan FA Cup winner.
Scoring that goal at Celtic Park. That was absolutely brilliant.
To be honest, I mean, the standard anyway, I mean, John McGinn, West Ham manager, like, even for current players, I don't think, I remember hearing something, I think it was last week, but something about Harry Kane watching Game of Thrones, and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell? I hope he's seen the ending, because it's really disappointing, and I think it'll be similar with England. I think it's maybe a thing to go back to if obviously no one's going to make that point if they get put out by Germany, but does anyone really care? It's like this celebrity nonsense of, like what you were saying about Saka. It's like, as football fans, I don't think anyone really cares about that. It's just sort of gossip nonsense, We want to know about stats and how the history of, I think one of the points was about the Netherlands. I actually think I don't think any of the commentators mentioned it, but the Netherlands were like the first team to win all their group games to be put out in the first round. Like, did anyone in the commentary say that sort of thing? You know,
the only kind of nugget they came out with in the Dutch one that I quite enjoyed was they've had 4 sendings off at the Euros, all against either the Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic. So they just can't get past the Czechs for some reason. Like, they always lose a heat and get somebody sent off. But that was a great wee nugget. I love wee things like that when I brought up in commentary. What I don't love is Sam Matterface and Lee Dixon making horrendous dad jokes that I'm almost muting the telly. They're that bad. Like, when see that carry on, or you can say that again, and he said it again, and it was just a minute of silence. Like, genuinely the worst commentated game we've had so far.
I've just
and
got
it takes some doing.
Aye, still game quote in my head. You just want Jack and Victor there like that. Nah, that's crap, Pat. That's crap, Pat. You can't just say something and take it and make it be something else.
Just give me Towsley and McCoist. Please give me Towsley and McCoist back. At least I enjoy it when they're commentating.
That was the thing, because Jonathan Pearce has done Finland's games. And I'm like, put Cloystey and Clive Towsley on, because Clive Towsley's been watching Kamara, can say his name, knows why he's a fantastic player, like, and then we could learn a wee bit more other than just, he's a good player, isn't he? He's a good player, Martin, isn't he? He's a good player. He'll probably go to the Premier League.
You can't see his name, but aye.
That is a tough job for anyone that's done it. But like, there's guys that do their research. You can always tell the guys that do their research have got a page full. But one thing at that level, they have the luxury of replays and and instant sort of decisions and everything, and hearing everything basically, and some of them are even being directed. So it's like basic just research, guys. I mean, how are they getting paid to do their job? In my opinion, you know what I mean? It's just like,
well, Lee Dixon even made a joke about, I came up with some analysis because I couldn't be bothered doing anything else. It's like, what?
That's to me, that's part of the role. You know, to do your research on these players and. Yeah. Jay,
we're talking about Glenn Kamara, or as the commentators kept calling him Camera, because he can't say his name right. There's 1 or 2 of those though. He'll probably get a big move to Brighton.
God.
But to be fair, it's not like I can forgive the occasional references to home countries. Clive Towsley does it all the time, and I can forgive it because he's a good commentator. He knows what he's doing. What I can't forgive is people, like, for example, the one that really got my goat the other day was Danny Murphy trying to say, oh, if that's, what was it he said? The play had moved on, so that's not a foul. So I can punch somebody off the ball and it's not a foul? What? He's like, oh, but the move had moved on, so the fact that he fouled him there didn't matter. Nonsense, like utter nonsense. And the golfing class between those kind of co-coms and when Emma Hayes was doing it, somebody that's actually put the effort and done the research, giving you really good insight into the type of players they are and what kind of things they're doing on the pitch, and you then notice it a lot more. There was one point where she was explaining the style of play, can't remember the game it was, but the next 5 minutes I watched and she was right. Just, she was explaining the reason they're doing the build-up play, because it gives a shield in front of a back four, and then you can really see it in action. So that's the kind of co-commentary we really want. Or McCoy's, who's basically the drunken dad watching alongside. One or the other's fine, but yeah.
You'll give you a belter if I start about like a fallen empire or something like that, which you always want, you always need. But everyone loves McCoy because he's just like, he does his research in a different way, and he knows his limitations. I think it's not just a turn up and see what happens and rely on being a player. If you know, oh, in my day this is what would have happened. You're like, aye, we know, but you know, I think you're right. I don't know much about football, like the intricacies of it and stuff. So I'm always eager to hear what other people are saying and like teach me something. Do you know what I mean? Make it interesting while I'm watching. Yeah. I
think with the women commentators, Mozza, I think there's still a bit of a sexist opinion on women's commentators, unfortunately. Whereas a lot of them are knowledgeable, but it's like, oh, it's a woman, you know. Yeah. This sort of typical standard sort of thought. But there are, like you said, there are actual commentators, that are women and that do have like a really deeper insights into the game more than some of the men, and actually do a good job. But because they're women, I think there's still this, unfortunately, this attitude of, she'll not know anything about football and that, and it's just like, what a load of nonsense, you know what I mean?
It's still clear to see that that's out there. Like the amount of abuse Alex Scott gets, and I think she's a fantastic pundit. Just it's clearly because she's a woman that she gets it, and the more we get like women in the shows given that insight, hopefully the less that will be prevalent. Because I think you're right, Chris. They do almost need to try harder to be accepted, and obviously it's not the way it should be, but it's something that's not going to change overnight, is it? Just need to keep going with it.
It's an attitude that, like, just quickly, but my daughter got her awards through Stirling Albion, right? So they do great work with the girls. But another one of the dads there was like his daughter was there, but he still had this like archaic view of kind of what the girls were doing and like the awards they were getting, stuff like that. And I was like, mate, your daughter's here, like, encourage her. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it really is like, it's like a mindset that needs shifted. It's like education basically. But anyway, there you go. We aside.
We've made our point, I think. Loud and clear. It's just football Twitter's got a lot to answer for. That's what I'll leave it on. Just it's an absolute cesspit a lot of the time, the football Twitter, between that and Pesci and Pinaldo and all that rubbish. But so that is our time, gents. I unfortunately now go to work. That has flown by, that hour, so thank you very much, the two of yous. Just to round off, where can people find you on Twitter and so on? I'll start with yourself, Andy.
Yeah, so just Alba Mater on your socials. So yeah, that's really all to say.
Easy as that.
Yeah.
And as for yourself, Chris?
At Rampant FM on Twitter, you can find me.
Good man. Right, I'm going to queue up another raid because I did this yesterday and I really need to get in the habit of doing it. We're going to send you over to another sports stream at the minute. If I can find another Euros one, we'll jump over there. But for tomorrow, we have Scoops and Mr. Diz coming on 2FM guys, 2 English FM guys. So those of you have been wanting an alternative viewpoint that's not just Scottish, you'll be happy for tomorrow morning. We'll get some previews for them up to, well, what's coming with the games. I'm looking forward to that actually, to see what their opinion is ahead of Germany. Let me quickly check and see if there's any other Euros chats going on. I don't know if there is, to be honest. Doesn't it look like it? Right, so in that case, I saw it, I'll send you to Limmy. Limmy zone. But thank you very much, folks. Really appreciate it. Right, you almost heard me there. No Germans, I'm afraid, Pete. I did try to get somebody on for the German football podcast. It didn't happen in the end. So, for those of you that have been moaning about this being too Scottish, you're about to get Limmy. I don't know if that's an appropriate end or not. But enjoy your days, enjoy the games. We'll be back bright and early tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Catch you in. See you.
Cheers, Mozza.